Yu-Gi-Oh has changed yet again, and I'm not going to let you miss out on any of the information to make you a better player. The North American Yu-Gi-Oh Championship of 2022 was wow, like there is so much from that event, so much that is going on. Of course, if you want to see more information, I got the video right for you. Go ahead and check that one out. But today, we are going to be ranking some of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post the World Championship of North America. Let's go. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal, but if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Speaking of such, it is Tier List Tuesday, where we talk about some of the tier lists that will change your gaming experience for the better for life. These 4 different categories I will explain to you in detail so you know exactly why these strategies are being placed where they are. Meta Changer isn't necessarily better than Tier 1, but these are the strategies that define the meta. Most of the top decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or most of the decks that are Tier 2 and Rogue have to abide by these certain rules that these strategies play or use those rules against them to their advantage. These are the strategies that make the format. Tier 1 is again not lower than Meta Changers, guys. I don't know how many times I gotta tell you this, but the Tier 1 are the strategies that are really good in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you are looking for the most probable rate to win inside of this Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, Tier 1 and Meta Changer is your choice. These decks just play really well under the current rules that we will be playing against or take advantage of said rules. Tier 2 are strategies that if you know what you're doing, you definitely can pilot them
and ruin your opponent.
Tier 2 is the sauce, the ragu. If you know how to play these strategies, you can really catch your opponent off guard. And then finally, there is Rogue. These are the strategies that may have something that's going really well against them, but may not be their time to be able to pop off inside of the map. Now, of course, if you want to see a tier list about something in particular, possibly even a Rogue tier list, you already know what to do with that subscribe button. Go ahead and destroy it and let me know down below in the comment section. Also, be sure to let me know if there was a strategy that you think I missed, or if you think that a strategy on this list is a little too high or a little too low. I love to read you guys' comments. So starting off with our first strategy in ABC. This strategy not only snagged 2 tops at the North American Championship, it is a deck that has consistently been placing according to our statistics online. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a leap of faith. I normally will put this at Tier 2, but because of the extenuating circumstances, I think I'm saying that right, I'm going to go ahead and put this strategy at Tier 1. The ABC Therion strategy does exactly what Meta Changer decks needs to do. You need to be able to play the Adventure Engine to be able to get a Wandering Griffin Rider, and then hopefully you can play that Adventure Engine really well. Whoa, discarding ABC parts for your Fateful Adventure never felt so good, as it does allow you to get into your ABC Dragon Buster, which can disrupt your opponent. I think that ABC players should be really proud of themselves. 2 tops in a championship level event, the highest event we're going to get this year, as well as being able to have a successful win rate online. On the flip side, guys, unfortunately for our invoked players, we down in the dumps, guys. We Rogue. Now, there is a tidbit that I want to give you. Post Power of the Elements, this deck does get a massive boost just because we expect the meta to change by then. We expect players to be really special summon dependent and also lose to an El Shaddai Winda, something that the invoked deck can do really well. But right now, I would probably stay away from this deck, probably pick it up if I see it really cheap though. Now, Ignisters actually is another strategy that did make my top 5 meta decks, but keep in mind that list was technically a top 10, well, top 11, because I did give you 6 other strategies before. I think that Ignister is strong enough to be a Tier 1 deck if somebody said it was a Tier 1 deck, but I'm going to go ahead and place it into Tier 2. Only 1 top at the North American Championship, which is still really good, and congratulations to the player that it did, but it actually did expose a couple of falls to its most powerful card at Arrival Ignister. First, do you hate Mystic Mine? Well, if you really want to beat this deck, just activate Mystic Mine when they go their Arrival and let them deck out, because they went through a considerable amount of their cards to, Yeah, that's not good. The fact that there's a lot of players that are playing Mystic Mine does give them an easy out to be able to stall out their rival, but there's also ACCESSCODE Talker, which a lot of times can just summon itself outright stronger than Ignister. Regardless, this is a deck that is still really, really good inside of the format, and if you guys were to make a case down below in the comment section that it's tier 1, I really wouldn't hold you on that. DDD, oh my god, the deck that requires the biggest of the brains. Unfortunately, we got some bird brains over here. Like, have you seen the tops? It was Sword Soul and Sky Striker at the top in North America. We don't think here. We need small brain decks. Personally, I feel that DDD is strong enough to be in the tier 2 category, and I feel that its rogue status is actually due to the fact that there aren't a lot of players playing this strategy. Overall, it's a really, really good. It does have some really interesting interactions and can play fairly well through hand traps, but the problem is you need to know this deck to a T, and then you gotta play around some cards like Dimensional Barrier and hope that they don't call it right. Despia actually used to be the meta changer strategy. How would you guys feel if I put it in tier 2? Like, you literally should not bat an eye if I put this deck in tier 2. Fortunately enough for Despia players, don't come at me crazy yet. It is still a tier 1 deck. But Despia has actually been slowly but surely falling off the complete face of the earth. Players have realized that Mirror Jade is a great card, but if I return it to the extra decks, then you won't get its other effect, right? Also, this deck gets completely outpaced by some of the other combo decks. What Despia really has going for it is that it's better than tier 2 and rogue strategies, but when you match it against some of the upper echelon tier 1 and meta changer decks, it can kind of struggle. Dinos, boy, you already know. Dino best deck, let's go! Dinos is a hands down meta changer deck, guys. It has topped every single event. You just ain't seen the events that it... We're gonna be realistic, aren't we? I still don't think that Dino has a strong placing inside of this format, with Sword Soul doing so well over the championship event and players still playing the adventure engine. That just means that Token Collector can be used in the main board, which does make Dinos a lot stronger. And then of course, summoning Ultimate Conductor Tyranno when all of your problems happen. There aren't really too many monsters that are stronger than 3,500 attack that your opponent can summon. Dinomorphia, the second best deck. Okay, I'm gonna stop. But Dinomorphia is a very, very solid rogue deck. I actually have a deck profile on Dinomorphia if you guys want to check it out. It is $50 for the entire core of the deck. And then the rest of the cards, I don't think that there's another card over $5. So this is a really cheap deck. Ultimately, your opponent's gonna have to deal with Dinomorphia Rexsturm. Oh, I was gonna say something else. Dinomorphia Restrum, because the card's bad. But if they can't deal with Dinomorphia Rexsturm, then they're going to have a huge problem, especially seeing that since Despia isn't as played, Super Polymerization and cards like that won't be as heavy inside of the format. Moving on to Zombie World, which ironically did get a top and can play the rogue category. I think that a tier 2 status is more viable for the Zombie World strategy than a tier 1 or rogue, mainly because it does take the correct pilot to be able to play the deck really well, but ultimately the zombie pieces actually do help against some of the meta changer or tier 1 decks, as some of them are starting to need their typing again. Drytron is easily still a tier 1 strategy. This is one of the very few strategies that can pivot from making a monster that prevents your opponent from special summoning in Vanity's Ruler and then turn around to be able to deal with your opponent's back row. And because of that, that makes Drytron one of the more formidable decks inside of the format. I 100% think that it's on the lower end of the tier 1 status. And if somebody were to say tier 2, I really wouldn't put it past it. But 2 tops inside of the North American Championship will definitely get in on that lower end tier 1 range. I'm going to go ahead and try to rank them from best to worst, guys. Eldritch is easily another tier 1 strategy. And if you guys want to know what Eldritch deck you should play, the branded Eldritch strategy seems to be the best, and it's not necessarily branded with the Despia cards. Branded Fusion allows you to send light monsters from your deck to the graveyard to be able to summon Albion to your side of the field. The light monster that you send to your graveyard is going to be Eldritch the Golden Lord, which allows you to be able to start your Eldritch combos a lot faster. Now, of course, you don't use Albion to banish your Eldritch to Golden Lord, but what Albion does is provide a huge monster to your side of the field that can also get you branded cards like Branded Fusion again in case your first Eldritch to Golden Lord gets banished or you need more damage to your hand to be able to continue the combo. If anything, this is still really a pure Eldritch build. It just has 3 extra Foolish Burials to get Eldritch to Golden Lord to the graveyard. Heroes unfortunately did not make a single crack, but I'm telling you, you're sleeping on this deck, big dog. I think personally that Heroes are a tier 2 deck, but statistically, number-wise, and everything in between, it has shown itself consistently to be a rogue deck. Now, the reason why I think that this deck is a lot higher is because there are so many strategies that are reliant on Chaotic Ruler to Chaotic Magical Dragon, and that's something that not only the hero strategy can negate with Destiny Hero Plasma, you can actually punish your opponent really hard with a Mass Hero Dark Law, banishing all the cards that they excavate, and then still being able to punish your opponent from searching from the deck to the hand. I guess the only problem would be expense, but we don't worry about the price tag. We just throw it in a bag, right? Right? Okay, maybe not. It's kind of expensive. Unchained is easily going to be the next strategy on our list and does get way better when Power of the Elements makes its debut, giving us a Splice strategy. That's going to be really awesome, and I can't wait to do a tier list about that. But until then, the Live Twin strategy is a solid rogue Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. No tops at the championship, and I don't think it hasn't topped any of the championships so far. That's actually perfectly fine because right now, being able to link summon into your Trouble Sunny, which allows you to get your evil twins Kisakil and Leela to be able to destroy a card and draw a card, is powerful, but not necessarily powerful enough. I do like that this deck can play a ton of hand traps to be able to supplement its strategy, but we're still missing that it factor, the ability to be able to separate our starters from a million hand traps and then being able to make an it monster to be able to put pressure on the opponent. I think Splice definitely helps that cause. Calidodon must be proud because Floowandereeze didn't show a huge topping, but I'm going to go ahead and put Floowandereeze in the meta changer just because of how the deck is built and played. Floowandereeze is literally built to beat the most powerful decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dimensional Shifter turns Chaotic Ruler to Chaotic Magical Dragon to a Necroface for a deck that doesn't want to play Necroface. There's also that really annoying interaction that Floowandereeze has, you know, the I play on your turn when you play on your turn that it has going on. Being able to summon Floowandereeze Impin to negate all link monsters and anything your opponent summons in attack position, as well as the Barrier Statue, are obstacles that every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now has to overcome. Therefore, I'd have to say not only is Floowandereeze a tier 1 deck, it is a meta changer because you have to play cards in your main board or your sideboard to be able to address this deck. Libromancer, easily a rogue strategy right now. The artifact Scythelock, which this deck does really well, isn't as good, mainly because decks like Eldritch and Floowandereeze are very prevalent inside of the format. Lyrilusk actually did get some significant top. I think it got to top, correct me if I'm wrong, 16, and he possibly could have made it to top 8 if had it not been for a misplay. I actually have a hand trap guide where I talk about how you shouldn't use Joel and Lockbird against an adventure deck when they have no monsters on the field because you'll get gammaed, and that's exactly what happened. Regardless, I do think that Tri-Liro is a very solid tier 2 deck. It doesn't gain any advantages from the Adventure engine or the Punk engine. It actually gains disadvantages as more players probably will be playing Nibiru, but it's still a really solid strategy that if you know what you're doing, you can top with it. Earth Machine, I heard that it bubbled at the North American Championship. Unfortunate, but if my boys are still playing Skill Drain and you go boom, 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 vroom, vroom, vroom. But unfortunately, with Skill Drain, you have to actually go first, and winning every single dice roll just doesn't seem too possible. Next, where would I put Marincess after Elijah Green got top 4 wooded? Well, congratulations to you, Elijah Green, for showing everybody that Marincess is a top meta deck. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a budget deck anymore as of what I said inside of my budget Marincess profile, which was very cheap at the time. But the Marine strategy is really good is because it can summon really powerful monsters that are hard to get over. Take, for example, Mabled Rock with a Gozen match. That card is literally bonkers against the entire meta. Not only can your opponent not attack over the Marbled Rock, it also provides a way where your opponent can't summon multiple type monsters, meaning that if you're playing Punk and Adventure, you're going to have a really hard time. It can also search an infinite impermanence-like card in Marincess Wave, as well as play a ton of hand traps in itself, so it's definitely a well-respected, well-regarded tier 1 deck in my opinion. Plunder Patrol actually did a lot of great things, 2 of them being able to top the championship. With that being said, I give him a solid tier 2 grade. I think that the Plunder engine alongside of the Adventure engine really helps each other. And then when we look at the meta, there's not a lot of decks that play Wind and Earth attribute types, except for like Flunder and Wandering Griffin Rider. But outside of that, if there's a lot of dark monsters in the meta, there's a lot of light monsters, which they are, being able to summon into your Plunder Patrol Fusion monster and Plunder Patrol Ship list, which allows you to negate the activation of a card, and then Mork, which allows you to banish monsters or banish cards, is really, really good. Predaplants, I'm going to go ahead and put in the tier 2 status. This is a deck that 100% got 2 tops as well inside of the North American Championship, and I also just so happen to have a deck profile on Predaplants if you want to check that out. The big thing about this in this format and next format is that it can search its fusion spell cards from the deck to the hand. So being able to search instant fusion or branded fusion allows you to go full combo, but also Predaplant Dragastapelia reduces the level of a monster alongside negating anything with a Predaplant counter, which can be extremely harmful to decks like Sword Soul and in the future Splight. The Punk engine, Punk Therion, whatever we want to call it, easily a meta changer deck. Very represented inside of this format, and regardless if we're going to talk about Punk Therion, Punk Adventure, Punk Zombie, Punk is going to find its way inside of the format and be a very dominant deck for the foreseeable future, mainly because it can make a free chaotic roller to Chaotic Magical Dragon and get you into a Kriston Hockley Fibrix before committing your normal summon, or making a zombie vampire to mill 9 cards off of your deck and special summon a monster potentially. ROKKET Dragon Link has finally made it, guys. This deck was overbearingly powerful, if you ask me. I'm not sure if I would put it in a tier 1 status, but the fact that it can use the Punk engine and it can use the Adventure Token engine, BORRELEND Dragon is finally meeting its fullest potential. That card is completely cracked. This is a strategy that feels like it can not only play through hand traps just because ROKKET's, that's pretty much what they've always done, but now it has supplementals, negations, and it can take advantage of Red Rose Dragon, probably better than any other deck in the format. Solomon Great, with its lone top at the Nationals, this deck actually just continuously seems to top in events where it probably shouldn't exist. The Solid Gang is definitely really hyped about Solomon Great being able to top, and it'll probably continue to top despite Nibiru being a played hand trap. Sharks, guys, unfortunately, what I say still stands. There's literally nothing that Sharks can do that MARINCESS can't right now, and that's really unfortunate. Sky Striker, unfortunately to some players, is a tier 1 deck. It's ridiculous how this deck just keeps winning. Why does it keep winning? This time it's loads and loads of hand traps alongside of trap cards like There Can Be Only One. At least it's not Mystic Mine and attack directly with Hayate for death, right? I guess. Sun Avalon has fallen into the rogue status. Jack, don't hate, man. I'm sorry. I want Sun Avalon to be a lot better, but unfortunately, Sun Avalon has not seen any proficient tops since the beginning of the format. I do love that Sunseed Genius Loki is a 1-card combo, which establishes so much, and it can play the Punk engine. Heck, you can even play the Therion or the Adventure engine too. Like, this deck is really good on paper, but I really don't know what's happening here. Sword Soul is not only very powerful inside of this format, it is extremely powerful inside of the next. I've been saying time after time again, Sword Soul is an excellent strategy that goes second and can break boards. Hopefully this championship reinforced that to you, as Sword Soul has been clapping anything going first and going second. Another thing I want to say about the Sword Soul strategy is, despite Token Collector being played inside of the format so much because of the Adventure engine, it's still doing a lot. You don't expect players to be playing so many counters inside of the main board and sideboard, a card that can completely shut this deck down, and still for it to be so successful. That is literally the definition of meta changer. Phantom Knights, I still think that it's a solid tier 2 strategy, probably one of the better tier 2 strategies because it can always grind out games, making things long enough for you to be able to take advantage and go for game when needed. And then Pure Tri-Brigade, oh man. Unfortunately, a rogue strategy, getting rid of that normal summon Tri-Brigade. Do you have the Karis? No? Well, I mean, I'm just going to combo off then. I think that a trap or a hand trap based build is probably best, and unfortunately, you might have to play Crosshouse Detonators. Virtual World, no showings in the North American, but why do I put it at tier 2? Well, statistically, Virtual World is way better than these decks. This deck actually has a really high win rate statistically. And while it didn't have any North American showings, it did have a lot of showings in the South American Championship. So Virtual World is still one of the better decks in Yu-Gi-Oh!, just not necessarily played a lot, so it does take the best player. Lastly is Adventure Synchro. I really shouldn't have to say much about this. The Adventure token engine is going to be played in so many decks. To be honest, most of the decks, or half of the decks inside of most top brackets, are going to have some Punk in it, or some Adventure in it, or some Therion in it, which is completely crazy. But actually, this format has been really balanced and well, because even if so many decks did play the Punk, Therion, or Adventure engines, the top decks at the National Championship didn't play any of those. Basically, what that means that you don't necessarily need those engines to be able to succeed inside of the meta, and if you ask me, that is a healthy meta. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out these other videos. But of course, if you want to see Master Duel content, check out Master Duel Cali. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next one.